Hi everyone, welcome to the Advanced Home Upgrade Q&A for the new incentive structure. I'm Arjunal Sukusin, Senior Associate for PG&E Programs. With me I have Brett Bishop, Senior Technical Analyst, and also on the line we have Sandy Fischler, Senior Manager of Home Upgrade. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I know a few folks are still trickling in, but we're going to go over some of the logistics for this webinar. So if you look on your GoToMeeting screen, you have the ability to expand and collapse your side panel to enter full screen mode, and you also have a hand icon where you can raise and lower your hand. Additionally, you can submit questions to the questions panel. So go ahead and type your questions in and click submit. You'll be entered into a question queue, and as your question comes up in the Q&A, we'll go ahead and unmute you so you can answer your questions and have a conversation with us. If time does run out and your question was left unanswered, we'll go ahead and answer those questions offline in an email by February 15th. And at this point, if you cannot hear me, if you're having audio issues, please raise your hand. All right, so I am not seeing any hands raised. So let's go ahead and move on. If you are experiencing an echo or do have some audio issues, feel free to call in through a phone instead of using your computer. And if you're still having audio issues after that, you can reach our training line. They'll go ahead and help troubleshoot. And finally, this presentation is being recorded. A copy of the questions and answers for this will be available through a PDF, and a recording of this webinar will be available through the Home Upgrade website by February 15th. All right, so on the agenda today, we're going to review some of the main changes that are happening in the Home Upgrade program, and we're going to go ahead and review the measures in a little bit of detail, and we're going to end the webinar with a Q&A. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Brett.
Thank you, Arjunal, and I want to thank everyone who's calling into this webinar today. We're going to begin by going over some of the key points of note before we dive down into the measures themselves. Some of the key changes between the two incentive structures. The incentives will now differ based on the CEC climate zone. Incentive amounts are set relative to the average post-install metered savings in that climate zone. All measures will have a distinct incentive amount, and modeling will no longer be required. Pre-install will be replaced with a funds reservation process, and home performance or high performance HVAC installation, which we're calling Ultimate Comfort, has two separate incentives. One incentive directly to the contractor and an incentive to the customer. Combustion safety testing will still be required for pre and post install. Installation, we'll start with shell measures. In a 2x4 framed wall, the minimum R value will be R13. In a 2x6 framed wall, the minimum R value will be R19. And to qualify for this measure, you will need to insulate at least 50% of the total wall area. For attic insulation, we're targeting R44 or better. All insulation will need to be installed per the CEC QII standards. In the more temperate climate zones 2, 3, and 5, which can be characterized as more coastal climate zones, they need to have less than R19 existing. And in the inland climate zones, they will need to have less than R30 insulation pre-existing. We'd like to see 100% of all accessible attic area covered but we are aware that this is not always practical. So we set the minimum at 50% of the conditioned floor area. For floor insulation, the minimum R value is R19. It can be installed to full joist thickness, again through the CEC QII standards. We'd like to see 100% of all accessible floor area covered. But yet again, this is an area where sometimes that's not possible, so we set the threshold at least half of the conditioned floor area. For envelope air sealing, we have the same targets, 0.35 or better for air changes natural, with 0.5 air changes natural minimum performance, achieved according to BPI standards and ventilated per ASHRAE. That's no change there. We've set two different thresholds for the level of air sealing, 15% or greater, and then 30% or greater. The home will have to have a minimum of 800 square feet in conditioned floor area to qualify for this incentive. In HVAC, for ductwork, it is a replacement only incentive with R8 as the minimum insulation value in all climate zones. Less than 5% leakage is mandated. Existing ducts must have a leakage factor that tested in higher than 10%. We'd like to see 100% of all accessible ductwork systems. And if you have two separate HVAC systems serviced by an air handler, you can claim this incentive for both systems. And this is true for the cooling and heating equipment as well. For cooling equipment, the minimum efficiency standard is 15 SEER with a EER of 12.5 or better. For package units, 15 SEER with an EER of 12 or better. Again, up to 2 HVAC systems per dwelling. For heating, the minimum efficiency is 92% AFUE or better, and for heat pumps, 9.0 HSPF or better. The HVAC Ultimate Comfort measure has 7 specific criteria set around commissioning the system, and specifications including delivered sensible EER at 85% of system design or better. 1 system per dwelling unit for HVAC Ultimate Comfort. So regarding HPHI or Ultimate Comfort, to offer this incentive to your customer, you must have an approved HPHI contractor. Training is partially subsidized at 50% of the confirmed training costs, up to $4,000. So to review all of the necessary items to become a high-performance HVAC installing contractor, to utilize this incentive, you can go to the web address shown here. The remaining items for gas storage water heaters, the minimum efficiency is 0.7. For condensing gas storage water heaters, it's 0.9 EF factor. And with electric storage water heaters, the minimum efficiency is 2.0 EF or UEF or better. Pool pumps are still included per CEC Title 20 compliant. With a variable speed pool pump needs to replace an existing single or 2-speed pump. This is pertinent to in-ground pool systems only and no jacuzzis. One pool pump per project. Smart thermostats have been added to the program. They need to be an ENERGY STAR certified smart thermostat and must be Wi-Fi enabled and connected. So you can confirm that the smart thermostat has been installed and that it's been connected to the Wi-Fi in the home. And you can submit a picture that verifies for us that it has been connected to the Wi-Fi. You can do up to 2 per unit or per dwelling if you have 2 systems at a particular project.
All right, so that brings us to the Q&A portion. Again, if you have questions, go ahead and put your questions into the question pane, and we'll go ahead and answer them. All right, so we have a question from Aaron Husak. Aaron, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You should be unmuted now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was asking why the incentive for pool pumps had been slashed. It seems like quite a bit less than what the projected energy savings would be for installing a variable speed pool pump compared to some of the other items.
That is something that we can look at with our technical team. So I think what I'll do is I'll put that on our list of follow-ups.
All right, any other questions? All right, we have a question from Michael. Sorry, I'm going to butcher your last name. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Michael, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
It's a little foggy.
I'm just wondering how ductless mini splits are treated in the program, since you show a cooling rebate, you show a heating rebate, but although you have the HSPF there for the heat side, how are ductless mini splits treated in the program?
If the original system is all electric, then you can claim savings on both cooling and heating. However, if the original system is gas and electric for heating and cooling, the incentive for cooling will be the only incentive that we're able to offer.
All right. Looks like we have another question from Aaron. All right, Aaron, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Can you tell us more about why the program chose to eliminate modeling and has just gone to a fixed rebate amount?
Our experience was that the models tended to overestimate the savings that were found at the meter. And so after years of trying to get calibration through the manufacturers that developed the software, just a lot of experience pointed us back to, well, why don't we look at the savings that we found at the meter and use that as our rule rather than some forecast created by some software.
Hi, this is Sandy. I'm going to add to that. We're not going to abandon modeling altogether because it's a core component of building science. And one of the challenges, though, is that it doesn't scale well because of the extra cost and the extra time to the customer. So for people whose business depends on modeling and who have a customer base who really wants that level of diagnostic detail, we will still accept an HPXML file. However, the incentive amounts aren't going to tie to it, just because we cannot reliably predict savings using any of the existing models.
There's no point in the modeling anymore. Even though it's accepted, there's no point to doing it because it's not tied to the rebates.
Well, if you're using it as a sales tool for a specific type of customer, then absolutely, because you get all the chars and barts and graphs. The challenge, though, is that you're now over-promising savings that we're clearly not delivering.
And there are other purposes for using modeling rather than just participating in a utility program. One of the things that we tried to do with this new incentive structure was make it a lot easier for contractors to submit their projects.
And take some of the uncertainty out of on the customer side. As you know, previously we're asking the customer to call a contractor, go through an entire analysis project and diagnostic before we can give them even a hint of what sort of incentive is available to them. And that's a big ask out of a customer who just wants to know if they can get a rebate out of the work they anticipate doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for the explanation.
All right.
So ultimately what we're looking for is a sweet spot between getting lead gen, getting more customers who want to participate in the program, alleviating some of the burden on the contractor side with all of the things that we are requiring, and getting an incentive amount that matches up with the savings we're actually seeing at the meter. And this was ultimately the package that we thought delivered all three of those things.
All right. Are there any other questions?
All right, if we don't have any more questions, I think we can end early, give everybody back some of the time of their day. Please, if you have additional questions that come up after we've hung up, contact your contractor engagement representative and we'll get those onto the list. We're intending to send out on the 15th a full list of all of the questions that came up during all of these discussions with answers, some of which we have to go back to PG&E for to clarify. But we want to get all of the questions answered up front, so we've given you enough time to adjust your sales pipeline and your processes to meet the April 1st deadline.
All right. We actually got one more question in, Sandy. So Jason, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you for your question.
Hey, great. Thanks for letting me sneak in last minute. So fuel switching is a definite drop because that was an ambiguous answer from yesterday. You were going to check back with PG&E. So if there's an existing gas-fired furnace and electric air conditioner, and we install a ductless mini-split or ducted mini-split, and we fuel switch the heating source to electric, we can claim the air conditioning rebate, $500, but we cannot claim the heating rebate, $500, unless it's an existing heat pump system that we replace. Just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And it's not within the power of PG&E or Build It Green to make that decision. There's a law at the state level, at the CPUC level, that goes back to the early 90s. There's a proceeding to address it, but these things are oftentimes so slow to develop. But yeah, that's what we're up against there. I would like you guys to know that we'd love to answer this question differently.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement happening, even at the PG&E admin level. And this rule, just so you're aware, was put in place. This is the SoCal Gas Southern California Edison rule. So the CPUC didn't want either of those two utilities to lose customers to each other. It didn't matter so much for San Diego Gas and Electric or PG&E, who did both sides of the fuel equation. They, to be honest, PG&E would just love for you to fuel switch all day long. The rule is unfortunately in place because of SoCal Gas and SoCal Edison.
Okay, thank you. We've never gotten a straight answer on that during the whole time of the advanced program, up until now. So thanks for at least the straight answer. Yeah, unfortunate because PG&E sells both sides, so it seems like it wouldn't affect them. And obviously,
yep.
Big advantage is going to the mini-split technology over gas-fired.
Yeah, there is a big movement afoot to eliminate that rule for utilities that serve both sides of the fuel, because it doesn't make any sense.
But it's not any. It's going to be that way during this next program for at least the 2019 term.
Yes. But just know that battle is being fought. It's a big deal for especially PG&E.
Okay, and then last question I had, they alluded to it yesterday. So we do a lot of customers that we do home energy upgrades, including solar systems as part of our project. And I know that makes it challenging because you guys can't see the meter savings when the customer goes solar and there's no net consumption. It sounds like that's going to be allowed for the 2019 term, but it may be addressed in the 2020 revision.
At a policy level, yes, there's a lot we can't answer right now because there's just a lot of changes happening up at the policy level. Right now, though, we're going to continue as is. There is a chance, though, in 2020 we're going to start pre-qualifying customers because these are ultimately ratepayer dollars that we're working with. This isn't PG&E money. This is dollars paid by the ratepayers of PG&E. So we're under obligation to deliver savings commensurate with what it would cost to purchase those fuels out on the open market, which is a 1-to-1 ratio. So that's where that pressure is coming, is for us to deliver savings at the same cost that it would cost to just buy that resource on the open market.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're delivering savings to the customer who buys the HVAC system, and then that lowers their solar system size by that amount, and there's still savings out on the open market.
That's correct, and we're well aware of the age-old mantra of reduce and then produce, and you know we've drank that Kool-Aid, but there.
I don't know that it's Kool-Aid. I mean, from a customer's point of view, it makes sense. A solar contractor sells as much solar as possible, and the customer doesn't, you know, the customer's disadvantaged because they're overbuying what they need because their home's so energy inefficient. Making the home energy efficient benefits everybody, and it's a lower solar system too, smaller, less impact, greater savings.
Yeah, you know, I don't know that from the customer's perspective, I understand exactly what you're saying. We're trying to facilitate as much reduction in greenhouse gases as we possibly can as an organization. So from that perspective, energy efficiency is good, renewables are good. So yeah, we're not prohibiting solar customers for as long as we possibly can because we believe in both.
Okay, so status quo until the end of this year, but that may be a change coming in 2020.
It'll only change
Correct.
if we have to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully we won't.
There are policy things that happen up at the CPUC level that we have no control over. So we can guarantee you consistency through the end of this year, but no further.
No problem. Thanks for your candor.
Thank you.
All right, last call for questions. Give it another minute or so. All right, so it looks like we're not getting any more questions in, so I want to thank everyone for their time and questions. We'll go ahead and have an audio recording out for this session by February 15th along with a Q&A. All right, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.